I'm a Buddhist because I'm a perfectionist, and I feel like that's something that gets a bit of a bad rep. But I think there's a sort of positive side to that. I think in perfectionism there's this sense that there is something of beauty and value in the world, and that kind of perfection can be realized. But I suppose I always had this sense of that would be realized if I just got it right, if I just got the particular conditions of my life right. So whether it's like having the right group of friends, or being involved in the right art scene, or having the right relationship or the right career, like this sense that if I curated my life in the right way, it would yield this beauty and perfection and kind of sense of flow and meaning. But I suppose the thing that I found was that the closer I got to these things that I thought was going to yield that, like a place to live that was very beautiful, or a particular kind of social scene, it was like that quality would kind of dissipate and no longer be there. It's like it was always kind of on the edge of my vision or on the edge of my sphere. And I suppose Buddhism is the only thing that I've found where the closer I get to it, or the more deeply I understand the teachings, this sense of beauty or perfection doesn't dissipate, it only becomes stronger and stronger. I'm an artist, and I think there's quite a few links between Buddhist practice and art practice. I think the most obvious one, or the one that springs to mind, is that I feel like in art making you're having to make a perceptual shift away from the practical or the utilitarian, kind of seeing the world in terms of tasks to be fulfilled or how an object might be useful to us, and you're having to make a shift into a more aesthetic relationship with your environment, and a mode more of appreciation rather than I suppose it's utilitarianism. And I think Buddhist practice is also requiring that of us, requiring us to make a perceptual shift into a mode of appreciation. And I suppose in that way it's like the relationship to the world, to other people, becomes one of the heart rather than of the mind or of the head. And then another thought I had was that I think art making is often concerned with world building. I guess this is probably most obvious in terms of literature or novels. Like the novel takes place in a particular world, like whether it's like London in the 1980s or modern day Tokyo, and it's like that world will have a whole set of characters, and those characters will have particular beliefs about the world. So it might be like a world where people are always telling each other hard truths, or like a world where a family kind of orbits around the emotional repression of a particular event. And those kind of views will colour the whole world of the novel. And I suppose according to Buddhism, we're always world building, we're always creating stories about the world. Like say if we have a story that it's a dog-eat-dog world and everyone is threat or competition, we'll then experience the world in those terms. So these stories or this kind of world building is very powerful, and I think art making really makes that world building conscious and makes us see the effect that it can have on ourselves and on other people, and also the creative potential in that. Like, if we can build our world, we're free to build a world that we would like to live in and that we would like others to live in. And from a Buddhist perspective, that's more in line with reality. Do I think Buddhism can change the world? Yes. And I think that could manifest in many different ways. Like, I think when you hear the phrase change the world, you often think of activism or some kind of social movement, social change. And I think Buddhism has been very powerful in that respect, particularly in India, at instrumenting social change and being the kind of motivational force for positive social change. So I do think that that's a real possibility. And also, I think there are other ways that it impacts the world that might be slightly more subtle. Like, I think I've noticed even in the sphere of my life, which is quite small, in a particular way. Like, I'm not a politician or a public figure, but I think being in relationship to people and being a consistently kindly presence for someone in their life can actually have a really, really huge effect. And I've noticed the relationships in my life changing and improving as my practice has deepened. So this is a quote from Sangha: love when there is no reason to love.